The coronavirus doesn't infect your gut or your skin, it infects the lungs. So the lungs have to be working well, and one of the things the lungs need to work is saturated fat. The lung surfactants are two saturated fat molecules joined to phosphorus. And so, yes, you need lots of saturated fat. Butter, lard, coconut oil, meat fats, egg yolks, cream, cheese. I mean, all the delicious foods are the foods that protect us against illness and give us healthy lungs.
From the Weston A. Price Foundation, welcome to the Wise Traditions podcast for wise traditions in food, farming, and the healing arts. We are your source for scientific knowledge and traditional wisdom to help you achieve optimal health.
Hey, Hilda here. This is episode 232, and our guest today is Sally Fallon Morell. Sally is the head of the Weston A. Price Foundation, a popular speaker and a prolific author. This is a special bonus episode focused on how we can protect ourselves from the coronavirus. This virus was recently recognized as a pandemic, and it is to be taken seriously. At the same time, we want to avoid panic and hysteria, which ironically stress our bodies and lower our immunity. Sally today offers common sense based on science and ancestral wisdom. She discusses what foods we can eat to shore up our health, like bone broth and liver. She uncovers the history of how cod liver oil was given liberally to help populations in the past avoid disease. She also reminds us that shuttering public spaces was a common tool used in the past to avoid spreading disease. Finally, she reassures us that if we nourish ourselves well, this too shall pass. We offer this bonus episode to you today without interruption. Enjoy it, and may it serve you in good health. This is Holistic Hilda, and you're listening to Wise Traditions. Welcome to Wise Traditions, Sally.
Thank you, Hilda, and thanks for coming out to the farm to record this.
I felt like I needed to because everybody is in a state of panic with the coronavirus.
Yes, I know.
And so you are such a voice of wisdom. And people are saying, help us, help us. What does the Weston Price Foundation have to say about this? So let's take our time and go through what it is, how we can protect ourselves from it, and how we can be strong in general when these types of things happen. Because this is not the first time that a plague or virus has swept through the world, is it?
Well, I think of the Shakespearean times. Every now and then they'd have to close the theaters in London, and everyone went out to the country. So we know, for example, when Shakespeare spent some time at home because the theaters were closed. Right. So it's, this is what people do when there is something going around. They try not to be in crowded places, and a lot of people got out in the country if they could.
Right. So what is this virus exactly? Can you address what the coronavirus is? Is it unique, or is it one of a series of kind of viruses?
Well, there's a whole family of coronaviruses. The coronavirus has been around a long time, so it's nothing new. They do say that this one is more virulent and more rapidly infectious than others. I don't know if that's true, but SARS and MERS, they were coronaviruses.
Really?
And we've had outbreaks of them before, and it was a little bit ho-hum. We didn't have all this quarantine and so forth that we're having today. Mm-hmm. And at the time for SARS, China was criticized for not taking it seriously. So there's a sense that they maybe overreacted a little this time. But the point is that coronavirus is not new. It seems to have these little things sticking out of it that make it have a corona of light around it. But it's not new. And viruses do mutate all the time. When they go from species to species, they mutate. So we don't have to have this grand theory about bioweapons or anything. Coronavirus is something that's been here.
Right, but I understand where these theories come from because I was reading that some kind of biological center is in Wuhan, yes, where they were actually trying to come up with viruses to impact the society as a weapon of war. Is that true?
Who knows? And I don't want to speculate on that. But mm-hmm. I have a great respect for Mother Nature. I'm sure that viruses have a very important role to play, and I'm sure that they're actually rather resistant to our tampering. We've been tampering with fruit flies and viruses and bacteria for decades now. And, you get little variations, but you never get anything but what you started with: fruit flies, bacteria, and viruses. So, Mother Nature has a kind of closet around all these organisms.
And yet you say they have a role to play. What is that role?
Well, I don't know about viruses, but certainly we know that bacteria have a tremendously important role to play in our guts, on our skin, in the soil. We used to think that bacteria were bad and out to attack us, and now we realize that we can't live without bacteria. So I'm sure that the viruses it's something similar. They wouldn't be here if they didn't have a role.
Almost like if we can survive this, like say a case of the measles, for example, we can come out stronger on the other side?
Absolutely. And we should be exposed to things. We should get our immune systems working, practicing, so to speak. And so I'm very concerned that everyone wants to be so sanitary. Now, if you're working in a hospital setting and you have a lot of coronavirus around you, yes, that's very important. But in our daily lives, we don't have to engage in excessive hand washing or Clorox spraying or anything like that.
Well, talk to us about what we should be engaging in, what we should be doing to protect our bodies.
The right diet creates a healthy immune system. And if you have a healthy immune system, you are impervious to these bugs. Or if you get the disease, whatever it is, you have a mild case. It's probably doing you some good in some way.
So the right diet would include, I imagine, fat-soluble activator, right? Vitamins?
Well, first and foremost is vitamin A. So vitamin A is our number one protection against disease. And this has been known for a long time. It's just absolutely fundamental. And most Americans do not get enough vitamin A, or they think that they get vitamin A from leafy green vegetables and orange and red fruits. And this is not correct. We get carotenes from these foods, but it's very difficult for us to convert these carotenes, and we certainly can't get enough vitamin A, the kind of vitamin A that we need from fruits and vegetables. And yet all the newspapers are saying, eat lots of fruits and vegetables.
For your vitamin A.
For your vitamin A. There's no vitamin A in fruits and vegetables. I mean, that's just axiomatic. Now, we don't typically eat the kind of foods that provide us with vitamin A. And the basic food that provides us with vitamin A is liver. Vitamin A is stored in the liver, so we say eat liver once a week. And it doesn't have to be a piece of liver if you don't like liver. It can be pate, and it could be desiccated liver pills. But you definitely want to have some liver in your diet. And take cod liver oil. That's the other thing that we really think is important. Before the Second World War, before we had antibiotics, cod liver oil was recognized as what gave us protection against infectious disease.
Really?
Yes, and there was a huge public health campaign to get everybody taking cod liver oil. My late husband told me that they got their cod liver oil until about 1953 in England, through the war until 1953. And that protected everyone from the measles, the flu. It reduced absenteeism. It was given out in schools, and the doctor gave it out, and even if you went to Sunday school, you got your cod liver oil.
How did it fall out of fashion?
Well, antibiotics came along, and they were touted as, the new scientific thing, and the emphasis on cod liver oil just kind of waned. I think there was a lot of influence in the background. But it's a shame because the importation of cod liver oil went down to about 10% of what it had been before.
Wow. And so, liver, cod liver oil, what other foods contain vitamin A?
Well, butter and egg yolks, caviar, fatty fish, but the real high values come from liver.
Okay. Now, I know you've mentioned also that vitamin D is important.
Right. Vitamin D and vitamin A are like twins. They work together. And I'm very concerned when I'm reading this in the paper, I read it in the paper this morning, take some vitamin D capsules. And this is not a healthy way to do this because every molecule of vitamin A requires vitamin D, and every molecule of vitamin D requires vitamin A.
They need each other.
They need each other. And so if you're taking a whole bunch of vitamin D, that's going to deplete you of vitamin A, especially if you're not taking any. The beauty of cod liver oil and also poultry liver is that they come together in the same package. So, you don't want to take those capsules, but you do want to have the foods rich in both vitamins.
Wow. I'm sure this seems so foreign to people because cod liver oil, liver, like, who's eating these things anymore? I mean, I know we do.
We do, yeah.
But the general population, they're probably happy to pop some pills because they don't know.
Well, you can do cod liver oil in pills.
Okay.
And I urge people to go to our website and get the brands that we recommend, because most brands of cod liver oil are so highly processed that it actually destroys the natural A and D in the cod liver oil, and synthetic is put back in. So we only recommend cod liver oil that's got the natural vitamins, that hasn't been heated. And that's the one thing where we talk about brand names on our website.
Oh, okay. And also, caveat, fish oil and cod liver oil are not the same thing.
Very good point. Fish oil is an industrial product. It is boiled for hours at 230 degrees. It's not a good source of vitamins A and D. And they say, well, it's a good source of omega-3 fatty acids, but not the way it's processed. Those will be destroyed by the processing.
Okay. So what about vitamin C? I've heard a lot about vitamin C in terms of it boosting our immunity. Should we get more of that in our diet as well?
Yes, and I always like to get it from food. And the best source of vitamin C is fermented foods like sauerkraut.
Ah, yeah.
There's 10 times more vitamin C in sauerkraut than there is in cabbage. So the fermentation process really increases the vitamin C. And of course, there's fruits and vegetables. Also, if you want to take more vitamin C, I recommend something that's just like a powdered plant that's rich in vitamin C. So it's really the natural vitamin C.
Interesting. You know, I just saw this video recently talking about how the Native Americans in regions where they didn't have a lot of access to fruit and vegetables would have like the glands of the caribou and the moose to get their vitamin C. They actually got it from that.
Yeah, well, the adrenal glands really concentrate vitamin C. And when they killed a moose, and Dr. Price describes this, they took out the raw adrenal glands and they cut it into as many pieces as there were tribes members. Oh. And everybody swallowed a little piece of the adrenal glands. And they said that's how we prevent scurvy, the white man's disease.
Amazing.
So they knew how to do it.
Now talk to me about bone broth, because I know that's a healing food to take in that's also detoxing and boosts immunity, right?
Right. So bone broth is really high in glycine, and glycine is our number one detoxifier in the body, and it supports digestive health. It's just a very, very protective against any kind of disease, especially respiratory disease.
Interesting, because you know how we always say chicken soup for the sick. Maybe this is why, right?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So, and it's a very big component of our diet, the Wise Traditions diet. So, yeah, keep on doing it.
But we're not talking the little bouillon cubes.
No, and we're not talking the boxes that are sitting on the store shelves. We're talking about real, as my husband would say, real dinkum bone broth. You can buy frozen bone broth. We have lots of brands listed in our shopping guide. Or you can make it. We always recommend that you buy a whole chicken, save the bones, buy the feet or the heads or both, and when you have a bunch of bones saved up, you put those in your slow cooker and you make bone broth, chicken broth.
And it's so delicious, too, right?
It's such it perks you up, picks you up.
That's so neat. Yeah. Plus, it makes you look good. I remember when I interviewed Kim Schutte about detoxing, and she said, bone broth can actually help eliminate crow's feet. Like, we can be beautiful from the inside out because of the glycine and the collagen and other stuff.
Right. What is bone broth? It's melted collagen. And you need collagen for your skin, your digestive tract, for your joints, your tendons, to hold your body together. There's more collagen in your body than muscle.
Interesting.
More collagen protein than muscle protein. So, you need to feed and support and nourish that collagen. And the way to do it is with broth, bone broth.
Now, what about coconut oil, Sally?
Yes, so coconut oil is a very good fat for viruses. The coronavirus is a lipid-coated virus. And that's what just, I say pegs out with the types of fats that are in coconut oil, the medium-chain triglycerides in coconut oil. So I would have a tablespoon of coconut oil every day, one way or the other. You can cook in it. You can melt it in soups. You can just melt it in a mug with a spoonful of molasses and pretend that that's coffee.
And what do you mean pegs out again?
Several people ask me about this. It's slang for die. And it comes from cribbage. When you peg out in cribbage, you lose.
Oh. So the coconut oil can kill the coronavirus?
Yes,
kinda?
it absolutely can.
Oh, really?
In the gut, yes.
Now, is that the same thing as MCT oil?
Yes, it is. The MCT oil comes from coconut oil. So the only difference.
I've always wondered, I guess, if that's as good.
Well, no, I don't think so, because MCT oil is missing the lauric acid, which is one of the very special fatty acids that's in coconut oil. So they take the oil out of the coconut, they remove the lauric acid because they use that in all kinds of cosmetics and things like that. You see sodium lauryl sulfate. Anytime you see laurel, that's the lauric acid. It's a 12-carbon fatty acid, and they get it from coconut oil.
I see.
So because that's so valuable, then what's left is the MCT oil. That's okay too, but the coconut oil is really the best.
It's the real deal. Well, I love it. I love it. I cook in a lot. And that takes us just to the subject of fats. So what is the role of fat in protecting our bodies from sickness?
Well, especially the coronavirus, because the coronavirus has an affinity for the lungs. The coronavirus is spread by coughing or sneezing into the air, and if there's viruses in that spray, they get into your lungs. The coronavirus doesn't infect your gut or your skin, it infects the lungs.
Okay.
So the lungs have to be working well, and one of the things the lungs need to work is saturated fat. The lung surfactants are two saturated fat molecules joined to phosphorus. And so, yes, you need lots of saturated fat. And at the same time, you want to avoid the industrial fats and oils.
And saturated fat is the kind that is solid at room temperature, is that right?
That's right. So that'll be butter, lard, coconut oil, meat fats. There's saturated fat in egg yolks, cream, cheese. I mean, all the delicious foods are the foods that protect us against illness and give us healthy lungs.
This is a really important point, because I remember going through the grocery store years ago and seeing all these oils on the shelf, and I was like, which one should I get? And I'd be like, well, that one's on sale. That was one way I'd make my decision. Or I'd say, oh, well, vegetable oil, that sounds like it's healthy.
Yes. Oh, and exactly. The right term for these oils is industrial seed oils.
Not vegetable oil.
No, they don't come from vegetables.
Why do they call it that?
Yeah, because it sounds better. Vegetable sounds healthy. And they said this way back in the 1913. They were saying, vegetable foods are good for you, and these are vegetable oils. But they didn't come from vegetables.
So what are they made out of?
They're made out of seeds. So corn, soybeans, cottonseed, canola is rapeseed. Yeah. And the most common one is soybeans. 80% of all that oil is from soybeans.
And apparently it's so processed,
our
bodies don't even know what to do with it, right?
It's horrible stuff for our bodies.
And it's too bad, because almost everything you buy, if you're just eating out, is cooked in these oils.
Yes. The oils in their processing, when they come out of the seed, when they're squeezed out of the seed, they look like black gunk.
Really?
They look like tar. And they smell horrible. And then there are about 5 steps in cleaning them up, every one of which involves heat. So these oils are very fragile. They're heated really hot for 5 times. And then they come in the bottle. They look clean. They smell clean. They put something in that smells. And they put a little drop of yellow coloring, so you think of butter when you see
it.
It
all looks
things.
so yellow and
And then and you're supposed to cook with these things. So
right.
You're going to heat them one more time.
Oh my gosh.
And all of the spreads and the healthy spreads and I can't believe it's not butter and imitation butters. There's something now called plant butter. They're all made with these really bad industrial seed oils.
Well, you know what we'll do? In the show notes, we'll put a link to the Oiling of America.
Okay.
You've done a DVD on that. I think we also had a podcast on that subject, because it's really important for people to understand this.
And I did a book on the subject too.
Yeah, awesome.
Nourishing fats. So.
All right, we'll put links to all of that. And then I wanted to ask you, because we're on your lovely farm and because I know you started the Real Milk movement, I wanted to ask you about raw milk. So talk to me about raw milk. How is that protective against
raw
viruses?
milk contains a lot of components that create and support the immune system. It's very good for the immune system. It's a source of glutathione. It's a source of immune factors. It even has white blood cells in it. So it's got everything in it that your blood has except for red blood cells. That's why it's called white blood. And so raw milk is very, very good for the immune system. Now somebody wrote in and said, well, can coronavirus infect the immune system? I mean, infect the raw milk. Well, maybe if somebody coughs into your glass of milk, but your gut is not a very hospitable place for coronavirus. It thrives in the lungs, it thrives in the mucous membranes and not in the gut.
Now, so many people are avoiding dairy right now, Sally, but just a point of clarification. Raw milk is very different from the pasteurized milk we could get at the grocery store. Right?
And the milk at the grocery store is ultra pasteurized. It's heated to 230 degrees. I mean, it kills everything in the milk.
And I feel like raw milk is a little bit, I tell my friends, I liken it to yogurt because it's full of like really good bacteria that is good for our guts, but, you know, out of fear, we've started pasteurizing.
Well, actually, the milk, when it comes out of the cow, those bacteria aren't there yet. But in your gut, it actually feeds the good bacteria.
Okay.
And, of course, you're also getting these good bacteria from your sauerkraut and your pickled vegetables.
So this little diet wonderland that we've described of vitamin A, D, C, of the coconut oil, the raw milk, the bone broth, the saturated fat. Like, this is a great prescription for staying healthy come what may. And yet, I just have to ask you, because people are very concerned right now about the death rate of the coronavirus. Can you speak to that at all? Like, is it high related to, in other words, if you get infected, are the chances high that you're going to die?
Well, it's very hard to say. First of all, we don't know if everyone diagnosed with coronavirus really has coronavirus. There have been a lot of problems with the tests, and one person called the CDC and asked them about the tests, and they said, oh, we don't have a test for coronavirus. So it's really hard to figure out, how are they testing? Are these tests accurate? One test they were using came from Europe. It gave a 48% rate of false positives. So if you don't know exactly how many people have coronavirus, you don't know what the death rate is. And I hear it's anywhere from 1% to 5%. The normal flu, is about 2%. But let's look at it from a different perspective. There are about 50 deaths per day from coronavirus. There are 1,000 deaths, 20 times more, from the flu per day. There are about 2,000 deaths from pneumonia per day. And there are about 3,000 deaths per day from tuberculosis. So we're picking something that has is not causing a lot of deaths and making this huge, scary uproar about it. And I think that's what I find reprehensible. I'm not criticizing the brave medical workers who are dealing with this. And I don't want to minimize, if you do get it, you can be in intensive care for a long time because it's really hard on the lungs. But at the same time, we need to be realistic. I mean, it seems to me we should be having this big campaign for TB. And that's contagious too.
Right.
So that's what's really killing people in this world.
Wow. So it is good to respect the concern people have and at the same time not stress about it, right? Because panic, what does that do to us?
Yeah, well, panic, you see a lot of panic and worry, and that's being created in the media, I think quite deliberately. And worry and panic use up vitamin A. Vitamin A is what you need to make stress hormones. So if you're really stressing out, you are depleting yourself of the very vitamin that you need to fight this virus.
So what do you do to stay so calm and manage your stress?
I eat all these foods. I take my cod liver oil every day without fail, and drink raw milk every day without fail. We do a lot of bone broth and all the good fats, and it just makes you calm and feel happy, and you realize that everything has a purpose. And you don't get stressed out about things.
Wow, that's beautiful. So I just have two more questions to ask you. One is, as you mentioned at the top, actually, there are a lot of conspiracy theories floating about, like, how has this been man-made?
Yeah.
Do you have any idea about these? Or 5G being at the root of it? Because didn't Wuhan have 5G rolled out in December 2019?
5G was rolled out in Wuhan, the first city that came out. It's everywhere. So these, I guess they're like little antennas. And they're basically broadcasting. Is everywhere. Now 5G is, in the airport when you go through those things that turn around?
Yeah.
That's 5G. So 5G doesn't really penetrate the skin, but they know there's a danger. They don't put pregnant women through those machines.
Oh, that's
They
true.
don't put children
They don't
through
put children,
them.
no, that's right.
And it's only for a brief couple of seconds on the airports, but this is all the time. And apparently, and I am not an expert on this, but 5G is 60 megahertz, and that is exactly the frequency that upsets oxygen. And so the oxygen in your blood is going to be tampered with, so to speak. So 5G, and there have been studies on this, definitely lowers your immunity and may cause respiratory diseases because it makes it hard to breathe, or even heart disease. So you take a virus, it might be a very bad virus, it might be a benign virus, but you put it in this atmosphere of 5G, and it's going to be worse than it should have been.
So that might have been a factor, not necessarily the causal factor.
I don't think it caused it, but it's certainly a factor in creating, making it worse, and all the more reason to eat these foods to strengthen your immune system.
Yeah, so okay, we'll eat this way. We'll be paying attention to our environment. I'm not afraid to touch people, but we do need to listen to what the officials are saying. And so the final question I always pose on the podcast, and maybe in the context of the virus, you can tell us, if the listener could do one thing to shore up their health in these days, what would you recommend that they do?
Well, I would recommend they take cod liver oil right through this epidemic, and hopefully you'll notice that you actually feel better, more relaxed when you take cod liver oil, and then they will keep taking cod liver oil.
Awesome.
I take the liquid. That's sort of hard for some people. You can get it in capsules.
Yes.
But please go to our website to see the recommended brands.
And again, we don't get kickbacks from all that.
No.
We are just putting stuff out there for you. We have the shopping guide, as Sally mentioned, so you can find the brands that we think are actually going to be good for you. And there's no affiliate or anything from any of these. We just want to help people live their best lives.
That's right.
Appreciate that.
Thank you, Hilda.
Thank you, Sally.
Yeah, okay.
Our guest today was Sally Fallon Morell, the head of the Weston A. Price Foundation. Visit our website for more resources to safeguard your health at westonaprice.org. And I'm Hilda Labrada Gore. You can find me at holistichilda.com. For the show notes for this and every podcast episode, just visit our website, westonaprice.org, and click on the podcast page. And a quick reminder that the Weston Price Foundation offers a free info pack, which includes our main brochure, The Timeless Principles of Healthy Traditional Diets. Get it right on our homepage at westonaprice.org. And that is it. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next time.
On behalf of the Weston A. Price Foundation, thanks for listening. We have many free resources to support you on your health journey. Visit westonaprice.org to find podcasts, articles, videos, and more. You can also find a local chapter near you for help in finding sources of great food. We invite you to support the Foundation's mission of education, research, and activism by becoming a member. Thanks again, and take care. Wise Traditions is a project of the Weston A. Price Foundation for wise traditions in food, farming, and the healing arts. The content on this podcast is provided for informational purposes only and is not intended to substitute for the advice provided by your doctor or other healthcare professional. It is not intended to be, nor does it constitute healthcare or medical advice.